Again, a very good afternoon to all of us. Thank you for taking time to join us for this webinar about the Tax Amnesty Program. Today, the main purpose of this is to get some more understanding about the Tax Amnesty Program, and particularly how you or your organization can benefit from it. And going through first an overview of the Amnesty Program, and then after going through the overview of the Amnesty Program, have a session led by myself where we'll discuss how you can benefit and 3 quick steps that you need to take to benefit. We'll have a Q&A session towards the end, where the session we booked you for an hour and a half. That perhaps you can finish sooner, so that we can allow you to do some other stuff that you have desk for today. To start us off, just a couple of introductions. My name is Alex Kanyi. I'm a partner at Cliff Decker Hoffmeyer, and our firm is one of the firms that quite pushed for us to have a tax amnesty. Just right when we were asked to present our views on finance 2023, or rather to provide comments that would be in the bill, our firm saw it fit to also request National Treasury to also include something around the Tax Amnesty Program, and more because the voluntary tax disclosure program that we have within our laws was coming to an end. And we thought that KRA was quite successful. That first initial program, having collected tens of billions from that particular program. And we thought that it should be extended for them to get more revenue from this tax amnesty program, number one. And two, for also taxpayers in Kenya to take advantage of this, so that when you have your historical tax issues that you want resolved, then you have an opportunity to pay the principal tax, and in exchange for that, the Revenue Authority, through the law, then gives you an amnesty, penalties, and interest. So today we are joined by Miriam from the KRA, Miriam Wairimu. Miriam will speak to us about the Tax Amnesty Program from a KRA perspective. On her end, she's an expert in this, having worked with KRA for some time, having been one of the people behind the Tax Amnesty Program from a KRA implementation side. So, and for Miriam, something also to note, she's actually the head of reforms and automation at Corporate Taxpayer Accounts Management Division at the Kenya Revenue Authority. She holds a degree in business administration, accounting option, and she also holds a master's in customs and tax administration. So I don't know whether Miriam has been able to join. And if not, then I know she will be joining us shortly. Miriam, are you here?
Not yet, Alex. I think we should start and she'll join.
Okay, perfect. So in that case, let's go straight to how we think you can benefit from this particular tax amnesty program, and a short introduction about our firm. And then when Miriam joins, she'll take us through her presentation on how to actually get this particular benefit on the tax amnesty program, and showing you step by step as to what you need to do on the KRA tax platform, because our initiative here is to not just give you knowledge, but give you practical guidance as to how you can take advantage of this tax amnesty program. So without further ado, let me just project something here on my end.
Alex, Miriam is in the meeting.
Okay, perfect. So Miriam, if you're around, please take it forward. We've already given an introduction, so take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I believe I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
Alex? Okay, thank you very much. Let me share my presentation. Apologies. To start us off, as I wait for the presentation to load, I want to first take us back to the origin of the entire, everything about the tax amnesty, how it came to be. So that as I talk about, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me put it on presenter mode. Okay, I want to take us through just a small brief summary of the tax amnesty, the origin, why we have it, and then we'll go to how we can benefit from the tax amnesty. Before the introduction of tax amnesty, KRA used to run a waiver program where taxpayers who had accrued interest and penalties would benefit from the waiver program. And maybe taking us back further to why did we have waivers? If a taxpayer files and pays late, they will get penalties and interest. If they file late, they will get penalties. If they fail to file, they will get penalties upon filing. So the penalties will be imposed upon filing. So you would find over time, taxpayers would file and pay late, or sometimes an additional assessment would be raised on these taxpayers. And as a result of the additional tax that had been raised, you would find these taxpayers would accrue interest and penalties that over time accrued, and some of these taxpayers will not be able to pay. So as a result, the waiver would come to assist taxpayers clear these penalties. And the difference between now the waiver program that we used to run in the amnesty is that under the waiver program, the taxpayer was required to present mitigating factors or justification as to why they needed to be given the waiver. And once they give these justification, they were required to provide evidence as to why they qualify, that is supporting evidence to their justification. And then we would check that justification against the legal provisions as provided for under Section 89. If a taxpayer now qualifies, that is the only time we would give the waiver. The same applies to Section 37. 37 was a law that provided for tax write-off. If a taxpayer requested for a write-off, or we felt there was need for this taxpayer to benefit from the tax write-off, we would subject it to the conditions that were provided for under Section 37, and if they qualify, we would recommend. The difference between write-off and waiver was waiver we would give, and above a certain level, we would escalate to Treasury. But for write-off, we would recommend to Treasury to consider a write-off. But now, over time, we found that majority of taxpayers, despite them applying for waiver, would not get it because they would not meet the threshold that had been set by the law. But when you consider some of these taxpayers, you would find they were going through some financial difficulties. Others were misadvised on how they are supposed to do their filing. Maybe some of the tax matters that raised the additional assessments were not brought to their attention, only picked by auditors, and they felt somehow burdened to be required to pay principal taxes, including interest and penalties. And as a result, we are happy that the amnesty was introduced. And what did the amnesty come to do? The amnesty came to give a fresh start to taxpayers. A taxpayer will not need to apply will not need to justify for why they need the amnesty. What they are required to do is just to make an application. The law has given us like a clean slate, a clean starting point, where taxpayer will not need to come provide evidence why they need this amnesty. As long as you meet the criteria for amnesty, you will get it. And that is why when you look at this introductory slide, it just shows a debt that is being wiped off. And the good thing about amnesty is a product that KRA is very happy to market out there, because we are giving a fresh start to the taxpayers so that they can enjoy the amnesty. Going to the next slide, now what will I be covering in my presentation? I'll be taking through the introduction, which somehow I've done part of it, then points that I wish you would not, then the publicity, what we are doing to make sure that every taxpayer comes to know about the amnesty, and then areas of support from you as stakeholders when it comes to the tax amnesty. So that is the what are you supposed to know, who are we targeting, where are we supposed to go, where are we heading, or where are you supposed to go to benefit, when, that are the timelines that are related to the amnesty, why should you take it, and how will you take up the amnesty. And as an introduction, the Finance Act 2023 is the one that introduced the tax amnesty, the interest, penalties, and fines. So when we talk about the amnesty, we are referring to only the amnesty is on interest and penalties. And when you look at the previous amnesties, it used to be almost the same, but it had a lot of conditions attached to it. But this one is as straight as possible. So as long as you have interest and penalties and fines, you will benefit from this amnesty. And this was introduced by inserting Section 37E to the Tax Procedures Act 2015, and is at the same time it deleted waiver section, and waivers were covered under Section 89,678 of the Tax Procedures Act. Meaning from January, taxpayers who don't pay their interest and penalties, or who accrue interest and penalties and fines, will be required to pay the entire amount without waiver provision. Before, a taxpayer who delays, pays late, files late, would be somehow assured of making an application, whether it goes through or not. But with the deletion of Section 89, it means taxpayers will be required to pay the entire debt, including interest and penalties thereof. And also, it also deleted the right of provision, which was under Section 37. And who will qualify from this tax amnesty? As we talk about who qualifies, there are some very important dates that we need to take note of which the first one is that is 1st December 2022. When we talk about that 1st December 2022, we mean any debts that accrue or have accrued for periods prior to the 1st December 2022, going backwards, will all qualify for amnesty, provided the taxpayer pays the principal tax. So the date of 31st December 2022 is the cutoff point for amnesty qualification. And when we talk about the two categories, the other category is, and the first one is now the taxpayers who did not have principal taxes due as at that, or for periods up to 31st December 2022, will qualify for the automatic amnesty. I'll explain what I mean by automatic amnesty. Then we have another category, and the first category will not need to apply for the amnesty. The first category will need to apply, it will not need to apply. The second one will need to apply. And which is the category that needs to apply? If the taxpayer had outstanding taxes or has outstanding taxes for periods prior to 31st December 2022. The second category, the taxpayer has to apply for the amnesty, because as you make the application, you will also be giving a payment plan. When you look at Finance Act, it says the taxpayer has to apply, and number two, has to give a plan on how they will pay the debt. So in case the taxpayer has principal taxes outstanding for periods prior to 31st December 2022, they will need to make an amnesty application online, and on top of that, give a plan at the same time of how they will pay that debt, and that debt, that is principal taxes, must be paid by 30th of June 2024 for the taxpayer to qualify. Just a repeat before I go to the next slide. The first category, taxpayer will not need to apply, and which is that category where they have already paid all principal taxes due by, that is, for periods up to 31st December 2022. These ones will not need to apply, but will get the amnesty automatically. The second one are taxpayers with principal taxes for the same period. They will need to apply for them to qualify, and upon application, they also give a payment plan, and the plan must not exceed past 30th of June 2024. And when we talk about amnesty, it will be applicable for interest, penalties, and fines on tax debt relating to that period. And when we talk about period, I want to make the clarification that when we talk about tax period, we mean even if an additional assessment is raised today. Today is November 14th, but it relates to the period December or the year 2020. As long as the taxpayer applies for amnesty and pays the principal taxes before that 30th of June 2024, they will also get the amnesty. So when we are looking at the periods for which amnesty is applicable, we are looking not at the date the assessment was raised or when you did the declaration, but for what period does that debt relate to. So if the debt relates to any period prior to the 1st December 2022, it will qualify for amnesty. And this also includes voluntary disclosures. If you feel there is a period in 2019 you did not declare, and you come forward and declare it now and pay the debt before 30th of June 2024, you'll also get there to enjoy the tax amnesty. And also this, when we talk about assessments, we are calling out clients, taxpayers out there who are now our customers. If there is an audit ongoing on your farm and you wish to benefit from this amnesty, we encourage you fast track if there are documents that are being requested for, bank statements, whatever documents the auditors are asking for. If you can fast track provision of this document, it will help you benefit from the amnesty, because the sooner the audit is concluded, the better for you, because you will be able to enter into a plan, and as long as you pay all the debts before 30th of June 2024, you will enjoy the amnesty. And I've talked about the amnesty will be granted per period, and I think when I talk about period, I've explained. If you do an assessment today, for that period, you'll benefit. If you do voluntary disclosure today for periods prior to that 2022, you will benefit. And something we need to note is, despite applying for this amnesty, it is not automatic that you'll get the amnesty. You will only get amnesty for period for which you have already paid all the principal taxes at 30th of June 2024. Meaning, if you apply for amnesty, you had 4 months, you had debt principal taxes on. You request for 2 installments or 4 installments, but you only pay 2. And by 30th of June 2024, you find there are 2 periods that you have not yet cleared the principal taxes. You will not get amnesty for the 2 remaining periods. You will only get amnesty for the 2 periods for which you will have cleared the principal taxes. So yes, you might have submitted your amnesty application, but as long as you don't honor the payment plan as signed during amnesty application, the period for which you will not have paid the principal taxes, you will not get the amnesty. And the debt, any debt that accrues from 1st January 2023, as I've mentioned, there was the deletion of Section 89 of the TPA that covers waivers. As long as there is any debt that has accrued from 1st January 2023, it will not qualify for amnesty, and also it does not qualify for waivers. There are some points that we need to take note of when it comes to this amnesty. Number one is, how do we treat NDR transactions? And when I talk about NDR transaction, majorly it impacts on maybe, let me just mention 2 of the main ones, that is VAT and income tax. If you had VAT for the month of December, we know the due date of paying of that VAT is January. If for such, you might ask, do I qualify for amnesty if I did not pay the VAT for December on time, or I have some voluntary disclosures to make for December VAT? Yes, it qualifies, because we are looking at for the period, for which period did this tax relate to? It relates to December. Only that the Act says the commissioner can give extended time to pay the VAT for December, which is taken to January. The same applies to year-end transactions. if you're here for income tax, if your year end is December, despite the fact that balance of tax is payable the following year, yes, you will qualify for amnesty as long as your year end falls within 31st December 2022 backwards. If the year end spills over to January or February, that is the only time you say you will not qualify. But as long as it's within 31st December 2022, going backwards, you will also qualify from this amnesty. We have also excluded from the amnesty duties, custom duties that are covered under ECMA, East Africa Community. This is East Africa Community Customs Management Act. If you have duties under Customs Act, they don't qualify under the amnesty because the amnesty says it covers tax laws. And when you look at tax laws, it only covers VAT, excise, and such, but it excludes ECMA. The other exclusion from the tax amnesty is current year taxes that I've already mentioned. That is, from January coming forward, if you accrue new interest and penalties, you will not qualify. And also, we have penalties that are imposed under Section 85 for the Tax Procedures Act don't qualify for the amnesty because these are tax avoidance penalties. And maybe a taxpayer might want to know, how will I then know whether the penalties were imposed under Section 85? We made it very easy for you to know. Number one, when you're making the amnesty application, if there are any penalties under Section 85, it will populate when you're applying for the amnesty. When doing amnesty application, the system populates for you all the debts that you need to pay. But it does not populate periods that only have penalties and interest. It will populate periods that have principal taxes because that is the amount you need to apply for the payment plan. But if there are any penalties under Section 85, it will also populate because they are not subject to amnesty. The other way you can also confirm, when you go to your ledger, when you look at your ledger, there is a plus sign. On the far left side, there is a plus where there is a plus or negative. When you click, it will tell you these penalties are imposed under this section. So there will be no confusion because when we impose penalties, we make sure we state under which section they are imposed. But I can assure you, there are not a lot of penalties imposed under Section 85. And how are we effecting the amnesty in the system? There are three ways in which we are effecting. We have already effected the amnesty. The first one, we are calling it during application. The act of making an amnesty application in the system will trigger amnesty on all the periods that don't have principal taxes. Because you might find a taxpayer has one period they have principal taxes, but 3 periods that they only have penalties and interest. When you go to the system to apply for amnesty for this one period where you have principal taxes, because the other 3 periods that don't have principal will not show when you're making the amnesty application, the fact when you go and submit the amnesty application for that 1 month, giving a plan on how you'll pay that debt, upon submission, the system will trigger crediting all or balancing of all the periods that already had penalties and interest only. So that is the first way. The second way is upon payment. Payment of taxes triggers also amnesty. So there is a shortcut we are telling taxpayers, although we are not encouraging it, but you can do it if you cannot wait for the third option. If you are in a hurry, you want maybe a tax compliance certificate, but the only debts you have are interest and penalty. The act of paying penalties, only 1 shilling on any period will trigger amnesty. We are saying 1 shilling because any payment trigger will trigger the amnesty to happen and crediting of the ledger. But that one is because we said upon clearing any principal tax, the taxpayer should get amnesty for that period immediately. We should not wait until the end of the amnesty period for the taxpayer to benefit. And the third way in which, now this is the general one, the taxpayers will benefit, is what we are calling automatic amnesty. And under automatic amnesty, the taxpayer who do not have principal taxes to pay will automatically, you just check your ledger and find they have been removed. Yes, I know there have been concerns that the automatic amnesty is delaying. It's taking longer than the taxpayers anticipated. But the good news is that over the weekend, it was delivered. The solution was delivered. But we urge taxpayers to be a bit patient because it will take time because of the system capacity. When you look at the number of people who will benefit from the automatic, that is taxpayers without any interest and penalties, it's a huge number. Meaning if we start crediting, checking all the ledger transactions to credit, it's likely to take time and will be too much on the system. So what we have decided to do, we will be running like 10,000 pins a day, and then it is removed. We run continuously. We keep on running until all the transact entries are posted on the ledger. But still, we are giving another option. If a taxpayer, maybe you want a TCC or you have a reason why you want the penalties to be removed immediately, we are also giving that right to one person per station who can put your PIN, run the system, and then the penalties will be removed from the system. So all those options are available for the taxpayers to benefit from the amnesty. And what have we done, or where can you get information pertaining the amnesty that we are talking about? When you go to KRA website, we have already put the guidelines for taxpayers to learn about everything to do with amnesty. So that is the link. I'll be also, I believe, I will be sharing at the end of my presentation that link where you can click and go directly to the guidelines. It is a lot detailed than the presentation that I'm making. We have also developed and implemented tax amnesty system solution in iTax. When you're applying for this amnesty, you will not need to do it manually. You just go to iTax system, make an application. In case I get time, I'll take you through the step-by-step in these attachments. This attachment shows the step-by-step taxpayers can go through to apply for the amnesty. Then we have been carrying out various stakeholder engagements on tax amnesty, and you can get updates on the next sessions that we'll have, the next forums that we'll have when it comes to amnesty. So when you look at our Facebook, Twitter, and we have KRA TV, you'll be able to know the next steps we'll be taking when it comes to amnesty. We did a public notice on the same, and this was shared through, we shared this through emails, and we also, the public notice was put on newspapers. But we also keep on sending email messages to taxpayers, and also we intend to send SMSs to taxpayers about the tax amnesty. And on this point, we noted when we send emails and also SMSs, a lot of them bounce back. And a check of the bounce back, we note taxpayers have given the wrong emails and the wrong phone numbers. So we kindly request you to always update your contact information with KRA, because some of these very good initiatives or some of these great offers we're giving, you're likely to miss out if you've given the wrong email or contact addresses. And also we have developed FAQs, that is frequently asked questions, and these have also been updated on our website. And we keep on updating. Even after this session, in case we get a new question that has not been updated there, we'll keep on updating so that taxpayers can get responses to most of the questions they might have concerning the amnesty. Here, there's the president is on the front line advocating for the tax amnesty, and there is a YouTube recording, which I'll also capture on the chat, where he spoke about the amnesty. As we speak about the amnesty, we also have areas that we wish to get support from you as stakeholders. Your main clients, your main people, that is why you're the customers, and that is why we have brought out the amnesty. And which are these areas that we feel you can support us? Number one is you be our voice out there when it comes to tax amnesty, because even from the data, every day we extract data of the uptake. And from the data that we have been extracting over time, we have noted that there are a lot of taxpayers who are paying debts relating to amnesty period without making the amnesty application. And this points to the fact that there are a lot of taxpayers out there who are not even aware of the amnesty, and they might miss out on the amnesty if they are not aware there is a cutoff point. They have to make payments before 30th of June 2024. So you are the ones who can pass out this message out there and encourage people to take up the amnesty. And when we talk about taxpayers, we don't only mean corporate. We also mean the staff within your organizations. You have staff within your firm, and these staff might not have been filing their returns, meaning if they don't file the returns, they will not get the amnesty. But if they file the returns, the penalties for late filing will be imposed and they will benefit from the amnesty. So we request you to even pass this message. You can do mails to your staff, encouraging them, telling them about the amnesty, so that those who either did not file or filed late can know that they will benefit from this amnesty. We also request you to sign up for the amnesty so that you don't, because the good thing about signing up for the amnesty is this. For taxpayers who don't have sign up for the amnesty, will be in the category of taxpayers that are not compliant, and from KRA side, they have not even given a plan on how they will pay their debt. And that category will follow the normal debt collection process because they have not signed any agreement with KRA on how to clear their debt. So the normal debt collection process will follow. That is now the danger of not signing up for the amnesty. But the second category that signs, they have already entered into a contract with KRA and committed on how they will pay their debt. So these are in the book that we are just doing monitoring. So we encourage all taxpayers to sign up for the amnesty if they have unpaid principal taxes. In case you don't have any unpaid principal taxes, you only have interest and penalties, you don't need to apply, you will get the automatic amnesty. Also, when it comes to requested documents for reconciliation or conclusion of audit, I've already mentioned that we request you fast-track provision of these documents, because the longer you delay the reconciliation process or the audit process, the closer you're coming to the end of the amnesty period, that is 30th of June 2024, and you might miss out on the amnesty. And also the other thing, even if you don't miss out on it, it will become a bigger burden as you try to structure your payment plans to fit within the remaining period. Because for the people who took up the amnesty in September, they were able to get 9 installments. You come in October, you get 8. The system cannot allow more than 8. You come now in November, you get 7. So it goes reducing the number of installments. So the longer you delay in making the amnesty application or providing the documents for conclusion of some of these cases, the shorter the number of installments available for you to clear the debt. Also, we encourage you as our customers to avoid accruing new debts, since debts from 1st January 2023 will not get waivers, write-off, and are also not subject to amnesty. In case you have any concluded objection cases, you might have gone through objection, maybe an assessment was raised, it went through a DR or IRO, and the case was concluded. But when you look at your ledger, that is your statement in ITAX, you find the amounts there are bigger or higher than the actual decision that was made on paper. We request you to take these documents to your relationship manager and follow up to have the correct amount reflecting on your ledger. Because assuming it was an assessment, it means it came with penalties. Unless that amount is reconciled to reflect the correct amount, because I believe, assuming the assessment, let me give you an example. An assessment was raised for 100 million. You went to and revised the amount of 50 million. And there was interest and penalties of 5 million to the 100 million. If the decision, and then you go ahead and pay the revised amount of 50 million. When you go to your statement or ledger, and the objection decision had not been effected in the system, you will still find the 100 million. Meaning, when you want to benefit from this amnesty, you will not, because there is still outstanding principal.
on paper, you have already cleared the 50 that was decided or agreed on. But on the system, the 100 million still is showing. Unless this amount of 100 is reduced to 50 to reflect the amount you paid, that period will not qualify for amnesty because the system will know there is unpaid principal taxes. So that is why we are saying in case a case was concluded and you go to your ledger, you find the old amount is what is showing, bring it to the attention of your relationship manager so that they can follow up and help you out. Also, we are encouraging all our clients to consider out-of-court settlements so that you can take advantage of this amnesty. And we are advocating for these ADR, alternative dispute resolutions, because assuming a case is in court, you have no control of how long the court process will take and when the decision will be given. Assuming if the decision is given past the amnesty end date, that is 30th of June 2024, and then it means all the interest and penalties that were imposed on that principal or taxes, assuming the case is decided in favor of the commissioner, it means you'll have to pay the entire amount. But what if you withdraw the case and then you go to ADR, alternative dispute resolution, and you agree on the payable amount? It means you can take advantage of this amnesty and give a plan and clear the debts before 30th of June 2024, and then you'll have all your interest and penalties waived, not even considered. They will automatically be removed through this amnesty. We also encourage, as we take advantage of the amnesty as corporates, it's also good to consider our employees, because this amnesty is it's not only for the companies. There are some of our employees who come in the program that I'm in debt and refunds, both of them. In CTAMD, we call it Corporate Taxpayer Accounts Management Division. Under CTAMD, we deal with both refund and debt. But we get a lot of taxpayers who come, they want refunds, but when you ask them for P9 because the amounts are different, they say the employer has refused to give them the P9s. So you will find some taxpayers who did work, they wanted to file their returns, but they have not been given their P9s. It means these taxpayers, these are your employees, will not benefit from this amnesty because they have not yet filed their returns. So to facilitate even our employees to get this amnesty, we need to facilitate them by giving the P9s so that they can file their returns. And this means even P9s for very long time ago, in case they have not filed their returns. That is the only way we can assist them to benefit from this amnesty. And then the next one is I'm almost done. I've talked about there are some cases we have gotten where taxpayers are saying assessments were issued on them, but when you go to the system, they want to benefit from this amnesty. You go to the system, you cannot see the assessments, but they have evidence of payment. You go, you find some payments that were made, but they say maybe the officer said there was a system issue, there was something that happened that made the assessments not to be raised. And mostly this is affecting excise. If it was licensing, some fines were imposed on you. For any assessment that is not in the system, you will not get the amnesty because the amnesty is happening on iTax system. So we request, in case there are any assessments that were raised on you, you made the payment and they are not in the system, push to have all these assessments raised in the system so that you can also get the amnesty. And in case you have any missing returns, we encourage you to file, because as I mentioned, penalties are usually imposed on our iTax system upon filing. And if you have not filed returns, you'll go to the system and think, I don't have any penalties, so there is nothing to get amnesty on. But not. Penalties usually get imposed upon filing. So in case you have a VAT obligation that you have not been using, you have stopped using some of the maybe pay as one, you had some employees long time ago, and now you never pay as you one because they were laid off, and you stopped using that pay as you one obligation. We request you to file all those returns mostly you will file new returns if you never transacted or there was no transaction, and then the penalties will be imposed, and then you can benefit from this amnesty. And in case you no longer need that obligation, you are advised request for removal of that obligation. You don't need to keep on carrying an obligation that you'll never use again, because it puts a burden on you to always keep on filing, yet you might never use that obligation. You can also request for dormancy, that obligation to be put under dormancy. We also have mentioned about you consider voluntary tax disclosures, because when you look at the disclosure program that has been running, unfortunately or fortunately, it is said the first year when you declare you get 100%, the second year you get 50, and this was the third year you'll get 25. But this amnesty came it collided with the previous, meaning even the ones who are doing disclosure today will get 100%. And so in case you are not even taking advantage of this program, you can do your disclosure today. If there is a period you feel you underdeclared, you can declare the correct amount today. And as long as you pay before 30th of June 2024, you'll get 100% amnesty on the interest and penalties and fines in case you have any. And in case you have done return amendments that have not been finalized, and when I mean finalize is when you do a return amendment and the return is being revised upwards, it is automatically approved because you have something to pay. But where you are reducing the amount payable, it needs approval. We have gotten some issues cases where taxpayers are saying there is delay in return amendment. In case you have such cases, report to your relationship manager. You can also report to your TSO debt manager, and then they will follow up to make sure that all return amendments are properly addressed. And finally, when we talk also about return amendments, we should not forget about system issues. In case when you're filing your returns, you encountered some issue that prevented you from filing, or because of the system issue, the debt was inflated, you also report that to your station. There is something we usually call raising of tickets, where our ACT raise tickets and tracks in case you have any tickets that you feel are pending and are putting obligations on your ledger that should not be there. We request you to bring forth so that they can be resolved before the end of the amnesty period. And that was it. And thank you very much. I think we'll go to the question and answer session, and much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Miriam, for that. I believe I keep learning about this tax amnesty program every time I attend a training session, and sometimes when I consider myself that I already know already a lot about it and still continue learning, it emphasizes the reason why we should be having more of these sessions, because every time there's a new development that people should actually know about. So we'll go to the Q&A at the end. For now, just a few pointers to add on to what Miriam has shared. Let me just present my slide here. Wait, you probably have met with this particular flyer that Carrie also shared. Miriam didn't say anything about it, but you can see the tone from KRA. They want you to become friends. They want to forgive you. And for that reason, they shared this particular a flyer with everybody who is interested to take this opportunity. And I hope you received it. If you haven't received it, here is the message from Miriam and the rest of the team. They really want you to take advantage of the amnesty program. Mine is just to share 3 quick steps that you now have to take as a taxpayer to take advantage of this particular program. Of course, number 1 is understand how the program works. And it is for that reason that we requested Miriam to take us through the presentation. And please remember that this is not about you alone. it's you spreading this message to your finance teams, to your tax teams, to your directors, to your management, to anyone who you believe would benefit from this particular tax amnesty program. You've heard Miriam say that there are people who are already paying the principal, penalties, and interest, yet they could have taken advantage of the amnesty program and saved on the monies that they are paying for interest and penalties. So if you don't know, then you actually lose out a lot of money. And if your organization doesn't know, then they also lose out on a lot of money that they would have otherwise saved and perhaps even added a bonus to your salary. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to also highlight is to encourage everyone to review our tax compliance status. It is extremely important that either you yourselves or your tax teams or your finance teams or your management or at whatever position you sit in, that to ensure that the organization understands all the taxes that are applicable to the business. So you could be in manufacturing business and there are certain taxes that apply to you, yet you do not understand that they apply to you. What that means is that you then miss out on an opportunity to self-declare to KRA and say, fine, we've come to understand that these taxes applied to us and we haven't paid for them, and we want to pay the principal tax since they relate to the periods up to 31st December 2022, and we also want to take advantage of the tax amnesty program. So it is important that organizations or individuals first understand also the taxes that are applicable to them. The next thing that you need to do as you review your compliance status is to also check, are there already known tax liabilities within the organization that would benefit from this particular tax amnesty program because they fall within the period of the program. Basically, they are liabilities that are before the 31st of December 2022. And the only way you could know this, perhaps look at all those reports that have been handed to you by your auditors. Look at any internal reports that you have done. Perhaps you hired a consultant to do a tax health check for you. Please dig in, look for that particular tax health check report, check what liabilities were highlighted, and see how you can benefit from this particular program. And if you do not know about this, it is a good time that you also do an internal review, either by yourselves as an organization or as a person, or through the support of consultants or experts such as ourselves, so that we're able to tell you this is the match of your tax exposure that you have within the organization, and we think that you should go ahead and particularly self-disclose to KRA and say that we have this match that we think we owe you as principal taxes, but also want to take advantage of your program so that you save on the interest and penalties. And this is so important because once the period is gone and you haven't done that in self-health check or internal review, then if you do it after the period of 30th of June 2024 and you suddenly realize that there are certain taxes that you ought to have paid which would have benefited, at that point the Revenue Authority perhaps will not even listen to you because you'll be late, you'll be caught out of that particular program. So we really emphasize that you look at all your known liabilities, whether internally or externally, and you also do your internal checks, and if need be, get help from someone to do an external check on you to just ensure that you know your tax liabilities and you also take advantage of the program. And the final quick point and quick step that we also emphasize that taxpayers must take is to come up with a payment plan. While this might sound obvious, paying these tax liabilities mean it's something that wasn't on your budget. Paying for these liabilities means it's something that you haven't projected in your cash flows. So starting to do your self-review now to be able to understand how much you need to pay to benefit from the program is absolutely important. Remember, KRA is telling all of us that you can pay all the money at once or come up with a payment plan for you to pay all your outstanding principal taxes by the 30th of June 2024. Coming up with that plan can only work if you have already worked out internally on that particular plan and you know how much you need to pay, and also you have you're ready to actually pay pay for the same. The other thing that we're also insisting is when you're coming up with a payment plan, look at your own internal processes in terms of approvals. So it could be that beyond a certain amount, you need to engage the top management. It could be that perhaps above a certain amount, you need to involve the board, you need to involve the directors. And if then their decision making is something that is not as fast as possible, that's something that could actually delay you from taking advantage of the program. So start early and understand your internal payment procedures so that you're not caught out. And if need be, of course, for those whose years start from January and you're yet to prepare your budgets, start factoring this money into your budget so that it takes less time to get internal approvals, and then you also benefit from this. So those three quick points: that you understand how the program works, and remember, it's not just for you, it's for everybody within your organization. Make sure they also understand. 2, reviewing your compliance status. Please do your own internal checks, look at those reports that have been done. If necessary, commission an internal review within your organization, and if absolutely necessary, also commission an external review on your organization so that you see what taxes need to be paid so that you take advantage of this program. And finally, come up with a payment plan. Know that the deadline is the 30th of June 2024, and you need to actually prepare to pay for these amounts. Because, for example, and I've written an article on this. You know how we Kenyans sometimes behave, or taxpayers sometimes behave. So things are slowing down. It's that November, December, Christmas period that is getting in. Some of us already taking leave and taking some holidays. That means some time will be lost there. Come in January, it's also a slow start, and some time also will be lost there because either some people who need to give you approvals are not there, or some technical guys within your organizations are not there to support you with the process. So you likely find yourself starting to work on this from February, March, April, May, June, just a short 5 months. And if you then are not able to accomplish everything, including paying the principal taxes to KRA by that time, of course, like Miriam has mentioned, is that even if you had paid, say, one installment by 30th of June, and then you have 3 other installments that you needed to have paid and you haven't paid by 30th of June, then the whole thing collapses and you do not benefit from the amnesty program. So those were just my few short remarks as to why I think you need to take some quick steps now. So we'll go to some Q&A, and I'm sure some of you have already typed the questions down there. And as we look at those questions, just to let you know about something short about our firm. Our firm is Kietilo LLP, and recently merged with the firm of Cliff Decker Hoffmeyer. And the partners in Kenya, of course, are the ones we are seeing here. Sami as our managing partner. We have Njeri, Martha, and Sami, who do the corporate M&A work and also do the private equity work, mergers, acquisitions type of work. We have Shem, who specializes on intellectual property and data privacy. We have Desmond here, who specializes on dispute resolution. We have Lydia, who specializes on real estate. And you have myself, who specializes in tax, and with Clarice, who specializes in environmental law. So as a firm, that is what we do. And just last week, and if not last week, but one, we were awarded as the first runners-up large law firm of the year in the Nairobi Legal Awards that were done just the other day. So let's go back to the Q&A and let's attempt to answer your questions now. Thank you very much. Good. So before we go to the Q&A, allow us to be the first ones to ask you the questions. So you'll probably see something on your screen. Please answer yes or no, and then you submit the response. And the response will come to us. There are a couple of questions there. Portia or Karushka, we could perhaps go to the next questions.
Hi, Alex, we've launched all the polls, so you can continue with the Q&As.
Okay, fine. So continue answering those questions there as we then answer the questions that you have shared on the chat. Good. So Miriam, I think the first question is mine in terms of this amnesty program. So what happens if you have a refund application that is currently with KRA and they're offering to offset some of your liabilities against your refund application? Should the taxpayer first apply for the amnesty and thereafter pursue the refund so that the set-off only applies on the principal?
Okay, thank you. As I respond to that, you're talking about whether the taxpayer should first apply for the amnesty and then request for the settle. There are two parts of this question. Number one, if you apply for amnesty first in anticipation of a set-off that will arise from the refund, you are, I think, overstretching your luck. What if the refund is rejected? What happens? And there's something maybe I did not cover during my presentation about the implications of defaulting on a payment plan. When you're doing the amnesty application, there are terms and conditions that must be met. The third term and condition is that in case you find you're not likely to honor the plan, you need to make plans on how you will restructure it and the next date of payment. So when you're applying for the amnesty, it means you've already predetermined how much you will be paying every month. And here you've applied for a refund. You're not sure on whether the refund will come or it will not come. So I would not advise you to peg your refund application to the amnesty since you're not sure of the payment date. But there's something maybe I would like to touch on when it comes to refunds. The law under Section 47 of the TPA was changed to allow taxpayers to offset. The greatest challenge you've been having when it comes to refund is an availability of funds to pay the refund. Maybe the refund team has already validated, has approved your refund, they want to pay you, but we don't have the allocation from Treasury to give you the money. Before the law was changed through Finance Act, it is said upon application of the refund, the commissioner is given 2 years to pay the refund, failure to which an interest will be added on the amount refundable that has not been refunded. But Finance Act this year was changed to say, upon ascertainment of the refundable amount under Section 47, the commissioner should pay the refund within 6 months. Failure to which, if the money has not been availed for the taxpayer now to utilize this refund, the commissioner can apply the refund amount to offset other taxpayers' obligation. Meaning, if a taxpayer has a refund and we don't have the money, the taxpayer will get what we are calling like a voucher, which they can utilize against any other tax liability. So the first vouchers are expected around December. So in case we don't have money, you have already applied for amnesty, you were expecting this money to use it. It means the earliest you can get these vouchers is December. What if the refund is not ruled in your favor? What if the amount is not enough? Will you be able to make arrangements? So what we are encouraging, in case you have a refund, you can look for funds to utilize and pay these debts. But when you get the adjustment vouchers, you can use for the future liabilities. That is for the installments or for the payment plans from January going forward. But for now, make plans to start making the payments. I think that is a bit clear. And there's another option I'll give to taxpayers that has also been introduced by the Finance. It was introduced by Finance Act last year under Section 47 still. You don't need to always make a refund application unless it's VAT. For income tax, we have seen a lot of taxpayers make refund requests and the refund takes time to process, and it's a long process. Instead of making the refund request, there is a provision in the law where when you're making the refund application, you don't make the refund. It gives you the options when you go to on the window of refund application, it gives you the option to offset overpaid taxes. You select that option. Don't go to the option of refund. Go to the option of offset of overpaid taxes. When you select that, the system, once you submit, it will give you a voucher immediately, and you can utilize these vouchers. If it was installment taxes, you can only utilize this voucher for future installment taxes. But in case it was withholding or advance payment, you can utilize the voucher across the taxes. And I can confirm last month, taxpayers utilized these vouchers to the tune of 2.1 billion. So yes, taxpayers are aware of this. They have stopped going the refund way because it takes time, mostly for income tax. For VAT, you have to follow the refund process. So I would encourage you to use that option, and you will be able to clear some of the future debts instead of waiting for cash from refunds. I'll take any other question, Alex, from your side before I start taking the ones on the chat. Okay.
No further questions. Yeah, we can take the ones on the chat, and we've also shared them on your WhatsApp.
Okay. The first one is, what happens to taxpayers who, because of VTINs and compliance, have been placed on special table? I believe we are aware of what we are calling currently special table. That is where we are placing taxpayers who are, let me say, non-compliant in some way. For example, if not all of them are non-compliant, but mostly it's for non-compliance, where we find people claimed inputs from you and you're not filing, where you have been a non-filer yet people are trading with you, where you are a perpetual, you file but you don't pay, you are not ETIMS compliant. There are many reasons why people have been placed on special table. And when you're placed on special table, you are not able to file your returns. But something you need to note, when you're placed on special table, yes, you are not able to file, but you're not prevented from paying. You can pay. So what we have done, we have developed guidelines for internal use, and the guidance that has been given is that any taxpayer prevented from filing because they've been placed on special table, there is something we call reversal of erroneous interest and penalties. As you can see, from 1st January 2023, any interest and penalties that accrue will not be subject to waiver, yet they will not benefit from the amnesty. So in case you were prevented or barred from filing because you're on special table, the penalties for late filing will be reversed. But the penalties for late payment will not be reversed. You will be required to pay. So in case you find yourself on special table, don't fail to pay. Just proceed and pay. But because you are not able to file, the interest and penalties, the penalties for late filing will be reversed. The second one is apply for the DTP amnesty. I did not honor the payment plan. This is on the voluntary tax disclosure that is coming to an end. You're saying you applied for that voluntary tax disclosure and you did not honor the payment plan as you had signed. Whether you should cancel. I am not very sure whether you are able to cancel it because how the VDTP program was running, we had a different system where you could only apply for voluntary tax disclosure, and it was different from the ITAX. It was a different module from the one we are running, the general ledgers. Meaning taxpayers under VDTP, yes, will benefit from the amnesty. But currently, as we speak, when you try to apply for amnesty, it will not populate the debts under VDTP. We are working on that so that once you clear the principal taxes under VDTP, the penalties can reflect on this other side, or we can do amnesty on them. So you don't need to cancel it. You just need to proceed and make sure you pay before 30th of June 2024. And as long as you have already paid all the principal taxes, you will get the amnesty on the penalties and interest thereof. And not only VDTP, I would also want to mention something on payment plans that we are running. There are some taxpayers who had applied for payment plan through the old module. We used to have a payment plan module. If you're not able to pay, the TPS section 33 allows taxpayers to request for extended payment arrangements. You would go to the system and request for a payment plan. So when you're making payment plan for amnesty, we advise you don't go to that payment plan window. Go to just tax amnesty application. You will be able to apply for payment plan. The reason we are telling you not to go to the old payment plan window is because it does not give you the amnesty. It will give you a payment plan including interest and penalties, and you will have to pay as it is. So we're encouraging, in case you had gone to a payment plan through the old payment plan platform where you go and select payment plan, we request you to initiate cancellation. Cancel that plan so that you can go to the amnesty window. You apply for the amnesty. How can I apply for overpaid installment tax credit and adjustment voucher? I think I've already talked about that. It's when you go to refund, the way you go to apply for refund, you go to your iPage. Up there's a place for refund. You go down, I think it's the third last from bottom. It is talks about set off of overpaid taxes. It will, once you select that, it will populate to you all overpaid amounts. But something you need to note, if it is installment taxes, it can only be utilized against future installment taxes. Just read section 47 of Tax Procedures Act. But in case it was withholding or advance, there are some taxpayers without who paid withholding or advance and they don't have tax payable in installments. For those ones, you'll get a voucher which you can use across. So for advance and withholding, you can use across taxes, but for installment, you can only use against future installment taxes. And also, I've talked about the VAT one. In case you had VAT refund, there is no money for payment of the refund. After 6 months, the system will convert that refund into a voucher. And the good thing about that VAT voucher, you'll be able to utilize across taxes except for customs duty. Okay, I think I've taken most. Okay, I can see some questions down there. Can a taxpayer submit more than one amnesty application? Yes. When you are doing the amnesty application, it allows you to apply for per period, per tax head. It allows you to select a drop down, then it will show all the periods for that tax head if it's VAT. I've seen some taxpayers who forget some of the tax heads. They just select VAT and then they select the periods and submit. Then if you, for example, you have under VAT, you have the 3 periods, each one 20,000, it means 60. If you want 3 installments, it means every month you'll be able to pay 20,000. After you submit, you realize you had pay as you want of 100,000. You can go back to the system, select pay as you want, it will show and submit. But the danger or the bad thing about having so many payment plans running is you might miss out on some and default. It is better, even paying so many loans at the same time, it's confusing. That is why people consolidate their loans to have one figure. So it's better you reconcile, because even if you have three running payment plans, it does not really make a lot of sense, because the system, the amnesty system, does not need approval for payment plans. So you were the one to decide the number of installments you wanted. If you feel the amount, the money you have would cater for 6 installments, you better make it 6 than making one payment plan for VAT. You come after 3 months, you do another one, because the burden is the same. You can consolidate and make one amnesty application. The reason I'm also saying you can make more than one amnesty application is because when you go to apply for amnesty, you might find some periods that you don't agree with the debt in that period, because maybe it is under reconciliation, the debt you feel was recovered through a bank, but it was never updated in your ledger. You will leave out on such periods. Assuming it was under reconciliation and reconciliation is concluded and still there is an amount to pay, it means you can come back and request for payment plan for the amount that remains after reconciliation. So yes, you can apply for more than one payment plan under amnesty. But once the period has been applied for amnesty, for payment plan, it will not appear again under that window. The only amounts that will populate next time are the ones for which were not applied for payment plan. Payment plan is some.
Miriam, Miriam,
yes.
Just a second before we go to the next set of questions, we have another 2 questions. I want to encourage the participants to go to the chat section. If you haven't participated in the poll, you'll be able to see the questions there. It's very simple. For every question is a yes, no, then you submit your vote. If you go to the chat function, so I encourage us to take just a minute to go there. So far, I see we have about 15 of us who've participated, but we have 55 people within, and I think there are also some who've joined and left. But if you can be able to trace our chat box, please, we invite you, you go to each question, say yes or no, and for each question, you just submit your vote. So that we continue. So I think the first one was, are you aware of the Tax Amnesty Program and the deadline and how to take advantage? So you can choose yes, no, then you submit. You have the second questions of, have you paid all your principal taxes owing up to the 31st of December 2022? That's also a critical question. Please answer. Yes, no, then submit your vote. Then we have a question there whether you would want us to continue with the discussion on the amnesty program with you. Again, choose yes, no, and then you submit your response. Then the other question is whether you'd want a health check done for you. Again, please answer yes, no, and submit your votes. Then as we continue, there's also a question of whether you'd want us to engage with you and KRA on your payment plan. Again, answer yes or no, and then you submit your votes. And almost final is whether you'd want some training done for your staff on the Tax Amnesty Program. Again, please answer yes or no and submit your response or your votes. I think we'll give people another minute as they continue to do that. And as that continues, Miriam, maybe you could go to the 5th question and I could read it for you. That payment plan is something to be encouraged to ease the burden to the taxpayer. Kindly explain why KRA has been denying taxpayers this opportunity. Sometimes they don't approve, sometimes they give him a lesser period than applied for. I guess that's the question.
Okay, thank you. Before I respond to that, I don't want to rig the election or the voting, but as I look at the questions that are being posted, I have not heard one of the questions is whether they would recommend a health check. And I'm seeing a lot of the respondents saying no. But from a tax point now, from KRA side, I would really encourage a health check. Because when you do health checks, that is where you identify areas that you missed out. And if these areas are identified early, it means they can be done voluntary disclosure. Maybe health check is done. It found some softwares you bought or you brought were not taxed correctly, and then you can do voluntary disclosure on them, and then you can take advantage of the amnesty. But I don't want to read the poll, continue polling, but that is from KRA side. And the health check from this side is from the taxpayer client side. It's not health check by KRA, because from KRA, you will not control when we'll come do it. We might come after the amnesty, but when you're doing it with your audit firms or your tax advisors, you can arrange, you are the one who determines when it should be done for you to take advantage of the amnesty. But going straight to the question by Caroline Owade on why do we discourage payment plans? Maybe I'll start with the amnesty. Under the amnesty plan, we are not approving payment plans and we are not declining. we are telling the taxpayer, can you tell us what you want? Stick to it. That is what we are offering under amnesty. Other than waiving the interest and penalties or giving amnesty on the interest and penalties, we are giving you a paper to tell us how many installments you want to do. And what we are doing is just restricting you not to go past the 30th of June 2024, because if we allow you to go past that, you will miss out on the amnesty. So for now, as long as it's under amnesty, we are not in control of the number of installments. Now the taxpayer is on the driver's seat. But before the amnesty program, and that is where we will revert to once the amnesty program is over, it's because we have revenue targets. And on top of that, you look at most of the debt that we have is what we call PRWP, that is payment returns without check, where somebody, imagine, received our VAT and they have not remitted. So for such, we don't really have a leeway other than to demand the entire amount immediately, because this is money you charged, you collected on behalf of the commissioner, but you chose not to remit. That is why it is a bit stricter. We become a bit strict when it comes to agency taxes. And after the lapse of the amnesty period, we have already partnered. We have developed a risk engine that will determine for us the number of installments we'll give you. If the engine said Miriam should get 2 installments, that is the only installments we'll give you, because it is based on your ability to pay and probability to pay. Because sometimes you look at taxpayers' cash flows, or you look at the transactions, even the amount withheld, you find a taxpayer is having like amount of 20 million withheld through VAT, meaning they are getting a lot of money paid to them, and they are not able to pay a debt of 1 million in pay as one. So you realize these are taxpayers who are choosing to use, and we noted that is what's happening. They are choosing to use they prefer to be charged penalties by KRA because it's 1% and it is lower than going to take a bank loan where they will be charged 1 point something. And maybe for your information, there's a proposal that has already been taken to Treasury to review the interest rate to 2%, because we feel taxpayers are taking advantage of the low interest rates. They prefer to trade with KRA money as opposed to taking bank loans. So I request you, if you can pay this money through amnesty, it is for your good. And what are your priority areas for the informal sector workers? And by this I mean non-pay slip workers who are mainly paid in cash or via check. Mostly they are agreeing about the P9. Do you have a plan for such workers? When it comes to the people who are paid in cash or check, the only people who are supposed to be paying pay as one are the ones who have incomes above 24,000. And it's because when you calculate, there is the personal relief. When the personal relief is higher than the tax payable, you find that person does not pay as one. But where the personal relief is lower than the amount of tax payable, those are the ones who get into our tax bracket. So in case you are within the tax bracket, the responsibility of declaring that income lies with the employer. The only responsibility of the employee is declaring. You make a declaration of what was deducted, and the responsibility of giving the P9 lies with the employer. So we encourage employers, if you have anybody for whom you remit pay as you want, you have to facilitate them, because this amnesty is not only targeted to companies, but also to employees. And we have been getting a lot of taxpayers coming saying, they have refused to give me my P9. I am not aware of how to go about it. Yes, there is a way maybe you can work backwards, but that is it's so complicated for the employee to work backwards. So kindly facilitate these taxpayers to get their P9 so that they can file. The second category now, the ones who are not within the tax bracket. There are lots who are not even aware that they need to file every year. Whether anybody who has a PIN needs to file, but we know a lot of people don't file because they are not in employment. So there are messages, we are doing targeted campaigns to bring on and filers to file even if it's a new return, so that they can benefit from this amnesty. So if you have relatives there who have PINs, you need just to pass the message to them. They need to file new returns so that they can benefit from the amnesty. Yes, Joe, appreciation. I can see you say you're satisfied with the response. The set-off for overpaid installment tax is not available on individual tax payer PIN refund drop down. The set-off for overpaid installment tax is not available on income individual taxpayer PIN refund drop down. Or for the, I not thank you, Benjamin, for bringing this to my attention. And the installment, you can, when you look at the individual income tax, unless you're in business, that is the only time you'll find the installment tax option. But if you are under pay as one, there is no installment. You will not see it when you try that option. If you don't have any other source of income, you will not see the installment, because installment only applies, and it's not even installment. If it is a PIN, we have two types of PIN. There is P-PIN and A-PIN. P-PIN is supposed to, that is company, is supposed to pay installment taxes, that is every 4 months. But A-PIN, that is individual and it's business, what you do is graduated return. When you file your annual return, you use the normal payee rate to know the amount payable. So for that one, you can only apply for overpaid tax the normal way. But in case you don't find that option there, I will confirm. In case you don't find the option, I would request you to apply for refund, because you don't have funding constraint for income tax refund. Income tax individual refunds, we don't have a big issue for individuals. What we have much issue is for companies, but I'll confirm. Okay, I can see there are not many questions. Alex?
Thanks for that, Miriam. I think this has been quite engaging. There's a question there, but I think it's ours. Someone is asking where they can be able to see the poll questions. So if you go to the chats where people are sending questions, you'll also be able to see the poll questions there. So please take advantage of that and respond. So they're very easy questions. It's a yes or no, and then you submit your response. So just try and go up in the meeting chat, and you'll be able to see the questions that are there. I guess we are getting now to the very end. We just have 2 minutes to close this. I don't know if there are any other burning questions from participants. I guess I do not see any yet. So mine is to thank you, Miriam, for taking some time to take us through this. I think we should do this another time. Like I mentioned, I think I always learn something. Even when I thought I knew about the amnesty program, I always learn something when I get to hear from you presenting. So I think it is useful. Maybe early in the year to also plan another one. There could be some new developments there, or people could have already tried applying for the amnesty, and perhaps they've encountered some difficulties, and it would be a good chance for them to also ask their questions and get sorted. I also thank the organizing team, Billy, Karushka, Poshia, for organizing this, and also to the participants. Thank you very much for creating time for this particular session. Karushka, maybe you can confirm whether the slides will be available for the registered participants.
Yes, we'll share those with the recording.
Thank you very much. So with that, we come to an end of today's session. Have a lovely day or afternoon or evening, I think it is already. And let's meet in the next webinar, and hoping we'll get to learn some more. Thank you again, Miriam, and thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, and bye.
visions are desires that flicker between a wish and intent. They are carvings waiting for the artisan's hand. One who is consumed by purpose. One who can bring vision to fruition. Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, incorporating Kieti law from vision to fruition.